Greetings. My name is Kate Rademacher, and I'm here with Writing for Your Life and Compassionate Christianity. And I'm really excited for the conversation today. We are here with author Roger Hutchison. And I was telling Roger before we recorded that I feel like we're friends. Roger does amazing work. His work is beautiful. He's a children's book author and an author of adult nonfiction. So we're going to be talking today about Roger's, I think, newest book, The Gift of Baptism. And it is a gorgeous book. I've had a blessing of getting a sneak peek, and it's really, really beautiful. So, Roger, welcome. And if we can just start, if you can tell us a little bit before we talk about the gift of baptism, if you can just tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you got into writing and sort of what led you to write this book, this latest book. Thank you, and again,
Yes,
welcome.
I am truly honored, Kate, to be a part of this and excited that you're at the helm. I have been an admirer of Writing for Your Life for a number of years, so this is a great honor. I remember looking at it back in my early writing days and thinking, I want to be one of those people on there. And now I think my photograph is actually on there, which is such a bizarre thing. So, again, Roger Hutchison, I am the director of Christian formation. Um, Director of Children's and Youth Ministries. Actually, my title just shifted. And at Palmer Memorial Episcopal Church in Houston, I've been writing all my life. My first book came out in 2013 called The Painting Table. And what was amazing about that is that I did some work in Sandy Hook following the shootings there. This book kind of came out of that. Also came out of spending time with Sandy Sasso, who is a Jewish rabbi and children's book author. And this book, the Painting Table, came to be, and that began my journey. And The Gift of Baptism is my 10th book since 2013. And so that's kind of amazing. My dream was to write one book, and to get to have this opportunity is pretty incredible. Um, yeah. I am married, happily married to my wife, Kristen. And we have a daughter who is 23, and her boyfriend also lives at our house. And so I think I just thrive in chaos. So that's what's going on. And two dogs. So, yeah.
Well, we're recording this during Advent, so this is always a time when we're supposed to be, watchful and waiting, but we're often chaotic.
What?
So,
What is that?
well, and just to make sure we're clear, maybe you can hold it up. The Gift of Baptism is a book for children. It's a children's book, and it's beautiful. And can you tell us the name of the artist who did the
Yes.
illustration?
Her name is Claire Westwood,
Okay.
and I encourage people to look her up. She's on Instagram, and her work is stunning.
Yeah. Well, tell us just about the book in broad strokes. So how did it come to be and sort of what do you hope to sort of accomplish in sort of a big sense with this book? Again, like it's for children. What is it all about?
All right. Um, I've always loved baptism. I've loved watching children. I love when they cry. I love when they are curious. I love when they sleep through it. I love watching when adults are baptized. I love this process. And I was baptized myself in the Baptist church. And then my mom remarried, and she married an Episcopal priest. And so I became fascinated by the liturgy and these special rites. And so it's always been a part of my life. It was also the baptismal covenant, which really inspired me to write this book in so many ways, especially the last two promises that we make for justice, for caring for others, those really, I think, are so timely now, almost more than ever. And that is what had been on my mind. And I think that the words are very accessible to adults. I don't always think that the baptismal covenant is as accessible to children. And so I took this and almost paraphrased it in a way that I think children will respond to. The thing that's important to me, though, about children's books is this isn't just for children. I also see this as a book that is completely accessible to people who have loved the church, but maybe lost a bit of spark um, about what this is. Um, it also means a lot to me. People have been hurt by the church. And I think this is a gentle kind of reintroduction to what the story really is, and that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And it's something that we share with Jesus in a way. Jesus was baptized too, and it's a way that we can get to meet him in the water.
Well, thank you for that. And as I was mentioning to you before we started recording, I'm recently started seminary, and so I'm just been finished my first semester, and I was really sort of humbled and struck by the sort of critical centrality of baptism in the Christian faith. I was actually baptized as an adult in my early 30s, and like you, I love the experience of baptism. Being baptized was this incredible community event, and watching children be baptized is this incredible community event in my church. So I hadn't, I think, quite appreciated the theology of baptism. I'd been more focused on the sort of experiential nature of baptism, if that makes
Sure,
sense.
sure.
And so I don't know, maybe can you talk a little bit more about sort of what baptism means to you, or sort of how you
Sure.
understand the theology of baptism and how you tried to communicate that through the book?
Really, what I can give a book, like a textbook definition of baptism, and I don't think that's really interesting. But what I do think is interesting is what you said. Is it? I think it is such an experiential event. It's very visual. It involves symbols that we see every day, whether it's candles and water and oil, and it's. Um, I think what I am leaning towards more right now, not that this is what baptism is fully about, but what has been sort of sitting on my heart for the past several years, really, is that we've lost sort of community gatherings, being together. I mean, COVID, that was sort of the beginning of that. And I know that that was such a strange time for many, a difficult time for many, a wonderful time for many. But we didn't do a lot of community baptisms, and we didn't get to see those things. And so I am constantly looking for ways that people can come back into this community. And to do that and to welcome children in this way and to make a commitment to children in this way. And I know I'm speaking of baptism just as a child, for children, and I know that it goes across the ages, but this really is specifically, of course, written with children in mind. I just think it's a reminder. I mean, the baby can't answer any questions, but it's a reminder to the community that we have a responsibility. There was not a photographer there at Jesus's baptism. We hear stories, we see paintings, we hear music, or we read words about it, but we don't know what it looked like. We don't know what it felt like. We don't know those things. And I think this is a great way to do that. Those are the pieces of baptism that I really love. I have ADHD. I am very visual, and it seems like every kid I know has the same kind of makeup that I have. And so what I love is when we come back in, the children that I work with, and they get to kneel or sit up front and be part of the baptism. I love when we say, if you are a child and you want to come forward to see this baptism up close, that we do that. That is not something the church does very well. And for a child to be invited forward and all of their their perfect imperfection, and joy, and watch them watch these children. Um, they know what's going on. I think children have an innate ability to see the holy, and feel the holy that we sometimes lose, that we don't see. So I don't know that that answered what is baptism, but what I to me, it is just such a great, it takes every sense. It's very sensory, and you have that experience. I think the other thing is it is, people often say it's not until somebody has a baby that they come back to church after not being in church for a while. And some people kind of look down on that and say, oh yeah, they have a child now, they're coming back to church. I think that's okay. I think there's beauty in searching and there's beauty in exploring life, and sometimes there's beauty in separating a little bit from the faith of your origin and trying to find your way. And I think this is an amazing way to do that. Um, one other thing I want to add to this that I've encountered is that there are a lot of people, young adults, who have children now, who strictly make the decision to come get their child baptized because it's almost an expectation of their parents. It's what you do. And so I think that I don't know how to move past that. But I think that that's one of the things that I want to try to do is to remind people that it's important for our children to be part of a community, and for the community to be reminded that they have a responsibility.
Well, thank you for that. I love all of what you said, the sensory nature, the community aspect, sort of the engagement of children. It's so true. So thank you. Um,
Sure.
and I think, this book, mm, I mean, most children's books have wonderful illustrations. And I think that this book in particular has just truly incredible illustrations and color, the saturation of the colors in the book. So can you just talk a little bit about, your relationship with the artist? And that we have a lot of course, through Writing for Your Life, a lot of writers listening to this, and there's can often be a lot of misunderstandings about how one engages an artist when you're writing a
Yeah.
children's book. So can you just talk about maybe your experience this time and how it compares to other books you've written in the
Sure.
past?
Sure. So for most writers who write children's books, or if you're curious about writing children's books, the standard, especially if you go with a traditional publisher, is that you provide the words and they have the responsibility of deciding really who is the illustrator will be. If you're lucky, the editor or acquiring editor might ask you what you envision or what you sort of imagined while you were working on this. I was very lucky. I have another book that I had a little I said kind of what I expected, but or I imagined, and they found an amazing person. But with the gift of baptism, this was quite a beautiful process. And so, just like a lot of us during COVID, I spent time on the computer, surfing Instagram, and just one of my favorite things to do. And I would say to anybody who's interested in writing, particularly picture books, follow as many illustrators as you possibly can, whether they're faith-based or not. It's amazing to look at all of the magic that is out there and the beauty, and especially in a world of AI and that sort of expanding, to see what these people do, these illustrators who do this work. I don't say this is my book. This is our book. This is Roger Hutchison and Claire Westwood's book, because this book would not be the gift of baptism if it wasn't for her illustrations. So what I did is I reached out to Claire and I said, I think your work is amazing. I don't know if you're a person of faith. It really, that part doesn't matter to me, but your work is incredible. And if one day I have the opportunity, I would love to maybe work with you. And she said, well, we'll see, you know. And so I didn't think it was going to happen. I had a hope. Um, then when I was picked up, this book was picked up by the publisher. I made the suggestion and said, would you please consider her? And they saw her work and just without batting, an eye, said, yes, we would like that. And we would really like for the two of you just to take the lead on this project. And so this is not a normal process. So I share that, for those of you who are listening and curious about writing. This isn't always the way it works, but this time it did. And so Claire and I spent time on Zoom talking to each other. We did a lot of back and forth dreaming about what things look like. Um, Except that she took my words and it was almost like she read my mind, of what I imagined. I wanted to be the most different looking children's book on baptism that you can find, and I believe that it is. It is also incredibly inclusive. The diversity of children and households represented is just a beautiful part of this book. And so she did it. and it was just really stunning. I can tell you one really neat exchange that we had is that I had several readers for the book, who looked at the illustrations and my words, and somebody shared, you know, I have a hard time. My child, who's autistic, has a hard time seeing Jesus on the cross. So the feedback was, is there a way to reimagine, not to erase the crucifixion, but to reimagine where it can be accessible to a child who might get caught on an image that's really difficult to see, that is difficult for all of us to see. So we had this wonderful conversation, and we decided, instead of putting a body on the cross, we put a heart in the center of the cross, which I think at that point opens up. If we say Jesus is love, Jesus is the way of love, then the idea of crucifying love, I think, is something that children can understand. You know, why would we want to do something? Why would we want to hurt somebody who was here to teach us about what it means to love one another? And so that's what we did. And
Well,
so
that's
the
beautiful. That's
and
beautiful. And
it's
when
a
I was
beautiful
flipping through,
image.
I did notice that. So I'm so
Yeah,
glad to know the
yeah,
backstory on that. That's really
yeah.
beautiful. Well, and so it sounds like, it's interesting because the last couple of children's book authors I've interviewed, they've really had a great relationship with their illustrator. And it sounds like one of the really important qualities was listening, that the artist really listened to the author and that the author listened to the artist and vice versa. And that sort of trust but like, really hearing one another, I think is
I
perhaps a
think
theme.
that, and what the other part I would say to that, though, is to also leave room for the illustrator. The illustrator has a responsibility, and I think the book would not be nearly as beautiful as it is and as moving as it is if I had told her exactly what I wanted on each page.
Yeah.
When she sent her first drafts and things back, it just took all of our breaths away. And she knows I love my dog, and my dog appears in 3 different places in this book. So it's pretty special.
That's incredible. What's your
Yeah.
dog's name so that we can look for
Look for Sully.
Sully? Okay.
Sully is on the back cover. Sully's in a couple of different images inside the book. So
Well,
very
thanks
subtle.
for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, well, maybe this is a good segue to ask you just about sort of what you've learned through this writing this book about the writing process or about publication. Again, many of our listeners are learning and interested not just about the art and the craft of writing, but also sort of the industry, the mechanics.
Sure.
So there any, and I know you've also written The Art of Calm, which is a fabulous book for adults. Are there any, either from this book or just in general, sort of lessons learned or surprises that you might want to share?
Yeah. The hardest thing for me to do is cut down the number of words. And I think that, especially for those who are writing for children, you write, and the thing you want to do is you want to do more showing and less telling. You hear that, and that really is important. You want the child who is reading, or the reader, to go through the book and figure out some things on their own, without just sort of tying it up in a neat little bow at the end. And I think that is one of the most challenging things about writing a children's book. People think it might be easy because there are fewer words. It actually, I've written a book with 50,000 words, and I've written a book with, um, you know, 400 words. And I think it was harder to write a book with 400 words than it is to write a book with 50,000 words. And so,
Wow,
that in itself, huh?
that's amazing.
It
Really
is. It's
tell them.
true, because I think, the thing is every word matters. And one wrong word, or one kind of, it can change how a book feels. Um, yeah, so that, I think that's a thing I would say as well. I think the important thing is to write about the things that bring you joy and passion, things that really interest you. I love writing about food and color and, uh, all the things that I experience with my senses. I'm always paying attention. I also am a photographer. And so I take pictures of birds and I go walking in the woods. And those are places where I am always trying to pay attention um, to what, my book Sparrow's Prayer came as the result of me seeing a bird, probably just cleaning his feet, but seeing a bird, taking a photo, and the bird looked like he was praying. And so I then made the decision to write this book called Sparrow's Prayer and just signed a contract for 2 more Sparrow's Prayer books, which is super exciting. But it and it's also, the other thing I would say is I am the most impatient person ever. And I think there are a lot of people who go into this thinking I'm going to write a book or get published and it's going to be out in 6 months. That is certainly not the case. Even in the fastest, I mean, if you self-publish, that's one thing, and people do that and do that successfully. But if you're working with smaller publishers or indie publishers or traditional bigger publishers, it's going to take some time. It's 2024, and my next Sparrow books don't come out until 2026, and so that takes a lot of work. There are a lot of people involved in the process. I didn't know any of that. And I'm grateful for it. And I think the other thing is listen. Listen to your editor, listen to your readers, listen to what they, ask people to read your work before it gets published. See what their responses are. Be part of critique groups. All of those things are really important because you fall in love with your work. You think it's, that's the tendency. You write something and you've put your whole entire heart into it. And a lot of people are going to be looking at it and they don't know what that means to you. And so it's learning how to do that. And I'm still learning how to do that. I have stuff out on submission that may never see the light of day. So it's a process. It takes patience, a lot of rejections probably, unless you're super lucky and it happens real quick. That is rarely the case. But buy or check out picture books. That's the other thing. I collect picture books, and so I have a huge collection. Read them. You will see what is good writing. You will also see sometimes that celebrities get picture book contracts and they're really not great writers, but they're celebrities and those books are going to sell. So you'll be able to see some differences there. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
that's
helpful or
helpful.
not, but yeah.
No, I think that's, I mean, I think, Sophronia Scott, who I think we both probably know,
Yeah.
has, of course says like, you have to read if you want to write,
And
you really
read. Yeah.
have to, you really have to, and you have to be, intentional about it. So I love that. Well, maybe just a couple more questions. One is
Sure, of
what we were
course.
talking about earlier. I shared with you that I was a little bit surprised, and this goes back to the craft and the publication, that
Yeah.
the physical shape of the book
Yeah.
wasn't the traditional sort of I don't know what you'd call that,
Square or
rectangle,
yeah,
square,
yeah,
and instead it's more the shape of what I would traditionally associate with a young adult book. The
yeah.
traditional.
So the shape is really it's about, I think it's 5 inches by 8 inches, something along those lines. So it is not your traditional picture book size. I think actually the decision of the publisher to do this was really smart. At first, I didn't quite get it, but what I love about this is uh, this book fits in the back of a church pew where a bigger picture book wouldn't. This book fits into welcome bags. This book is a gift. And so it really is a nice gift that can be given when a child is baptized or an adult is baptized. So all of that's the other part that, and any publisher I've ever worked with, they would tell you that I'm really obnoxious. But I think finishes matter. I think things are when things are done well, and this book is really one of the best I've had. It's got a dust jacket. It's my first dust jacket, which I thought I've made it. I don't have end papers yet. I'm really excited about end papers. That's what I want. But they put a lot into this book, and so I think that the design, all of that is meant for a purpose. And the other thing I love it fits little hands. You know, It's a great size for curious little hands.
Well, thank you for that. And I mentioned to you my niece, Maggie, and I'm her godmother, was just recently baptized. So I'm going to be getting this
Yeah.
for her. I look forward to reading it with her. So, and maybe before we close, I want to ask you one more question, but I don't know if you'd be willing to just read us a couple pages.
No,
I
I'll
always
be
love
happy
it
to.
when
Yeah,
our
I would be
children's
happy to.
authors do that. So you can pick if you want to start at the beginning or in the middle or whatever, but just a couple pages would be wonderful if you're willing.
I'm happy to. I think so. Part of the book goes kind of through, as I said, I based it on the baptismal covenant. And okay, here we go. Sorry. Okay, so I don't think you'll be able to see it much, but what this picture
Maybe if
shows.
you move it back a little bit, because I know it's
Okay,
blurry
and
towards
I
the
can
screen. If you move
also.
it back, if you
Um,
move it back towards like,
oh,
oh,
excuse me.
no
Uh-oh.
problem.
Sorry about that.
We gotcha.
This is if it does it. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's better
a little bit
actually.
better.
Yeah, that's
So
better.
what that says, this page says, is we will gather at a table where we share meals and our sacred stories. We remember Jesus in the breaking of the bread. I will give thanks to Jesus and follow his path of justice, helping those who are hungry, sick, and in need. Together, we can create a world that reflects heaven here on earth. And if I ever lose my way, I will always find comfort in knowing that I'm not alone. God is always with us, guiding us back home. So that's
Thank you
a
so much.
small part of it. But yeah, each page is really is a gift. I would love all of this artwork to hang on my wall.
Yeah, I was
You
thinking the
know,
same thing. That would be great.
yeah,
Well, Gracie the cat on my side has joined for this interview, so
excellent.
she's I think entranced by the gift of baptism as well. So thank you so much. Well, maybe just in closing, you can tell us where we can learn more about your work. And
Sure.
if there's anything that we didn't cover that you want to share, of course, I'd love to hear that. If there's any new projects you're working on,
Yeah.
and just to thank you so much for being a part of this, the Writing for Your Life community in this way.
Thank you. What I can say is, what I want to say before I tell you where you can find me is that I actually would not uh, have an agent. I would not have met some of my most favorite authors and illustrators and publishing industry experts if it wasn't for Writing for Your Life. I mean that. It has had sort of its, different iterations of what Writing for Your Life has looked like, and um, I met my I met my editor for Spare's Prayer by attending a Writing for Your Life conference online, and so uh, I got to listen to this person speak, and was invited because I attended the conference. I was invited to send in a story, and that story got picked up, which was an amazing thing. And that was with Naomi Kruger with Beaming Books, and they don't accept unsolicited manuscripts, and so it was an opportunity that I had. Um, the same way I met my agent. I had worked for a long time trying to get an agent, and it was because of Writing for Your Life that I was able to connect with who I am with now, and that's Keely Boving, and she's amazing. So I share that because if you're listening, you're in the right place, and I encourage you to participate as you are able with this amazing project. So.
Wow, well, thank you for that. First of all, that's amazing, and I wasn't expecting you to say that, and those are two amazing stories, and we are
Yeah,
blessed. And we
yeah.
are blessed to have your presence and your,
Oh, thank you.
all you contribute to the
Well,
back to give
gosh.
back to the community. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I appreciate that very much. I am very active on Instagram at Roger Hutchison Books is my thing there. And so I'm also now over on Blue Sky with a lot of people who have hopped over to Blue Sky. I'm really very active there, and it's actually very amazing and positive. And I'm meeting lots of illustrators, and there's an amazing kid lit community that is forming on Blue Sky. And so far, so good. So I do a lot of work there. I also have a really active Facebook page. Um, it's just my regular Facebook page, but my goal, I share a lot on all of those different areas. And so feel free to reach out and connect that way. I love talking with people who are wanting to enter this realm of writing and publishing and all of that. Um, yeah, so I'm pretty accessible and sometimes too accessible. So and but that's okay. I love doing it.
And you have a website as well, right? What's
I
your
do.
URL?
Yeah, it's rogerhutchisonbooks.com.
Great.
And if you want to email me, it's Roger at rogerhutchisonbooks.com. So it's pretty
Awesome.
easy. One thing to remember is Hutchison. Everybody makes this mistake, and you're going to say, I can't find you. It doesn't have an N in the middle. It's
Yeah,
Hutchison.
Hutchison,
So
right.
yeah.
I made that mistake too. So,
No,
well,
that's
maybe
okay.
can you just hold up the gift of baptism one more time so we can see
Yeah.
the cover? And just want to say to everyone who's listening that this really truly is an incredible gift. It is a gift to the world. So thank you, Roger, for writing it.
Thank you.
Thanks to
There's my
your
dog. Look, my
Sully,
dog,
right?
Sully, appears right down here in the corner on the back.
Black fur.
Yeah, he's
Maybe
this
that's who.
black and white doodle.
Maybe that's who Gracie the cat was
Yeah,
honing in
yeah.
on when she paid us a visit. Well, Roger, congratulations! I can't believe you said this is your 10th book. Is that right?
It is, which is just wild. It's
What an
just wild.
amazing milestone!
And I think you just stick with it and my writing is very diverse and that may be a bad thing. Part of my issue is I have a wide range of what I do. I don't focus just on one thing, and that could be a problem, but I do it because I love it. And
Yeah,
so
great. Well, congratulations again, and
thank you so much.
keep us posted. I'm so excited. I own Sparrow's Prayer, and I love it. I have a copy of it right over there. So
Uh,
I'm very excited that you are that there's sequels coming, not just one,
Can I
but
share the name?
two.
Can I share the
Yeah,
names of those real
please.
quick just to
Yeah,
share?
yeah, yeah.
Because I think one is especially special. The first one that'll come out in early 2026 is called Sparrow's Easter Garden.
Nice.
And that's really kind of deals with the Lent and Easter in a neat way
Mhm.
using a garden. But the one I'm really excited out of those two, especially, is the last one. It's called Sparrow's Blue Christmas. And
Mhm.
it is a book that is going to address the big feelings that we all feel during the holiday season, and that we often don't acknowledge that our children are feeling those too. And so I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that being available as well.
That's
So,
great. Well, I think that
yeah,
sounds like something that's really, really needed. So, well, thank you for your
you're
ministry
so
and
welcome.
the
You're so
gifts you give to all of us and your readers in the world. So, many blessings and keep us posted. We look forward to having you back and interviewing you for your next book.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Take care. Peace.
Thank you.